How you doing, Frank?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, welcome back to Portland. I know we
Thank
saw a lot of you during the season, and thank you for coming up.
Yeah. Well, it's always one of my favorite spots to come. I was the original Florida Marlin when the franchise began in '91 with Dave Dombrowski, and so Portland was our AA affiliate, so I came here all those years during the Marlin days.
Now take us back to how your relationship started with Dave.
Well, I originally signed with Montreal back in '77, and I played for 6 years, and then I went into coaching, and I coached with Montreal, and then transitioned to the front office. And I'd been in the front office a couple years, and Dave Dombrowski was interviewing for our farm director's job in Montreal. Bob Gebhardt was the farm director, and he had left to go to Minnesota. And so our general manager was Murray Cook at the time, and he asked me to fly to Montreal to transition and run player development until he hired a farm director. So I flew into Dorval Airport in Montreal, and he said, "We need to wait around for about a half hour. There's a young guy flying in that we're going to talk to about this farm director's job, and I'd like you to be with me tonight interviewing him." And it was Dave Dombrowski. And so I had never met Dave, didn't know him. So we went to dinner that night in Montreal, and Murray dropped us off at the hotel, and we ended up spending about an hour and a half in the lobby just talking baseball and learning about our backgrounds. And we hit it off, and we've been very good friends ever since and worked together for about a dozen years prior to me leaving and going to Baltimore in '98 from the Marlins.
Red Sox Senior Vice President, player personnel. Can you just let the fans, let the nuts and bolts of that position?
Well, you know, I get to do a little bit of everything, but the thing I enjoy most is evaluating talent. Of all the jobs I've had in baseball, probably my favorite job was a cross-checker, seeing the top high school and college players in the country. I mean, I was a general manager, I was running scouting, ran Latin American operations, but my favorite job was evaluating talent. So when Dave came over here a couple years ago, that was a position he wanted me to fill, which was evaluating talent at the major league level. And so getting to do that last year, like I said, was kind of a throwback to some of the most fun I've ever had in the game. And so last year I was evaluating the American League East, National League East. This year I'll be more overseeing the National League, and Allard Baird will run the American League for Dave.
Do you think we've seen a transition of even more younger players nowadays in Major League Baseball?
Well, I think we're seeing talent plays. And so when you have good, talented young players, they're going to get an opportunity quicker at the major league level, and we're seeing them have success. And you know, our club is a classic example of that. You look at the number of players that are 25, 26 years old or less that are successful and playing well on a pennant contending team. It shows you that you know, developing your own players and bringing them along is the right way to go.
And it probably shows a lot for the amateur game, right? That they're getting good training before they get to professional baseball.
Well, baseball is just, you know, I'm not really a proponent of specialization where kids play one sport. I think it hurts more kids than it helps, but I do think we're seeing kids progress. And I think we're seeing kids, especially at some of the bigger universities, you know, they're playing at a pretty high level, whether it's the ACC or the SEC. You go to those tournaments, you're seeing players that will end up being in the big leagues within a couple years.
Yeah, and they're getting a lot of exposure too on TV. I mean, the media for those games, it's changed, the College World Series.
Exactly. It's very different than it was in the past. I mean, it's, I guess it's both good and bad from a standpoint of players are more known to the fans and more known when they get into the minor leagues. They're already, you know, somewhat a known commodity versus when I first started in scouting in the 80s, we didn't even we didn't even announce who was drafted for a week. So there was no announcement of even who was drafted. And the players didn't even know for 3 or 4 days they were drafted. Now they're watching it on TV.
And it wasn't too long ago when they did the draft right over the phone, right?
Correct.
Before.
And we still do after the first 2 rounds. It's still a phone draft, and you know, the internet has jumped in and tickered along with it as well.
You've probably seen this from traveling around to the minor leagues and being around in this organization. Red Sox fans are special, aren't they?
Very much so. I think, you know, I had considered retiring after I left the Braves 2 years ago, and really there's only a couple places you'd really want to work at some point during your career. And when Dave joined the Red Sox and that opportunity came up, I wasn't going to turn that down, because I think that, like I said, there's only a couple places in the game where it's really special, where baseball takes on a whole nother level. And having been in the game for 40 years, this is as good as it gets.
So when you were on the outside looking into Boston, when you got a peek into what it's like
Right.
now, it had to be completely different than what you thought.
I don't know that it's completely different. It's just it has that importance and that effect on people that is very different. Even even living in Atlanta and being with the Braves for 17 years, if somebody finds out I work for the Red Sox in Atlanta, it's more special than if I work for the Braves in Atlanta. Wow. So it just speaks to the respect this organization has.
You were GM down there, and I was saying earlier how everybody's tied in, and
Yeah.
you were involved in bringing Derek Lowe to the Braves, which it ties into our dinner here tonight.
Absolutely. Derek was, we were trying to rebuild our club from a pitching perspective. We went through a great stretch with Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine, and all these guys that are now Hall of Famers. And our club was built on starting pitching. And we went through a few lull years where we didn't make the playoffs from 06 to 08, and we wanted to start signing pitchers again and build up our system because our young pitchers weren't ready to compete at the major league level. And Derek was the best starting pitcher out there, and he had success. He was durable. You knew what you were going to get, and he came over and did a great job for us. He won, in the first 3 years with us, he won, I think, 43 games, which, he sometimes gets knocked for getting a big contract with us, but he helped get us over the hump and pitched big games for us.
That position of being a big league general manager, I think some people thought they got a peek at it when they saw Moneyball and then saw the crazy things being on the phone. Can you kind of give us a peek of what that life's like?
Yeah, I think it's funny because if those of you that watched the movie, one of the deals in Moneyball is a deal between Billy Beane and Dave Dombrowski, and where Billy Beane supposedly asked for extra Coke for his Coke machine in the clubhouse for his players in Oakland as part of that throw in that deal for Carlos Pena. Obviously, none of that ever happened. But I think what it really focused on, and Billy Beane would even tell you at the time that it was overblown, this whole focus on statistics, and what the crux of the movie was about was looking for pieces that were undervalued, players or positions or skill sets that were being undervalued in the marketplace. And because they were a small market club and couldn't afford to go out in the free agent market, they needed to take every advantage they could. And so if they saw something that was undervalued, they went after it. And at that point, it was on-base percentage. And he also would tell you that they loaded up on on-base guys that couldn't catch, run, or throw. So pretty soon they realized that wasn't the perfect model. They got on base, but they couldn't do anything else. And so he started jettisoning those players and trying to get more well-rounded players.
Yeah, there's probably some people in our crowd now that think they can be a GM, right? Congrats.
They can have that job, by the way.
you glad you're not doing that anymore?
Yeah, you know what? It was one of those. I can't say it was a life goal because I never anticipated being even in the front office. I always kind of thought I would be on the field as a coach or player. But once you're in that mode and once you're in the front office, it's one of those things. That's kind of the ultimate aspiration, is to be a general manager. Then once you're in that job, you realize kind of the nip and tuck of that job, where you're trying to put the best team on the field for the fans. And you realize, I remember when I first became general manager in Baltimore, I was doing a radio show on WBAL in Baltimore one night, and these fans are calling in passionately wanting us to do this and that and this and that. And I'm thinking, whew, I'm the guy they want to do this. And so you all of a sudden you really feel the pressure of trying to deliver for the fans a winning team. And so it becomes a much bigger deal. And that's only one side of it. The other side of the equation is trying to get your owner to give you the money, trying to get the players to sign the contract, and trying to put it all together and put a winning team together. So there's a whole lot that goes in the mix.
Yeah, and then some of those things that you think really work out don't, and then sometimes there's surprises, right, that just pop out of nowhere.
It's an inexact science.
Yeah. Your sons, congrats to them and their
Thank
success. You. I know that recently they're drafted, and you have a pretty good baseball family going right now.
Yeah, I had twins that played at Georgia Tech, which was where Jason Veritek played, which I call him Tech, but at Georgia Tech it's kind of sounds redundant. But my twin sons played there, and I have a younger son playing at Georgia Southern. And Kyle, who's one of the twins, is in AAA with Milwaukee now, and had a real good year this past year, and is hoping to get to the big league soon.
Yeah, that's great stuff. What was it like for them as youngsters growing up in a baseball world with you?
I think it was probably always a little tougher on them, but I can promise you it was tougher on me. At times, it was way tougher for me to go watch my kids play than to watch my Braves play. The Braves play, at least I had some involvement. Watching them play, I had none. I mean, they were on their own, and it was just hard to watch. It's hard to see your kids struggle. It's hard to kind of will them to have success and will them to do well, and not for you, but for them, so they can fulfill their dreams.
You came through here as a Marlins affiliate, and you saw Hadlock Field
Sure.
back in the 90s, and then we saw a lot of you this summer, and you know a lot of the same people that have been here back then.
Yeah, I've been kicked out of parking spaces by the same guys.
No way.
Kept from coming in the gate by the same guys. No, it's a special place. It's a fun place to come, and I kid with Charlie because when I came in here, it's been since last time I was here was probably 97, 98, and so many things were the same, but it was all the good things were the same, and it was just it's fun to be back.
Yeah, Red Sox fans have been very happy this offseason. A lot of moves. The pieces are in place, and
Right.
young team in the big leagues, but you also had players that you could trade to get big league quality players.
And that's really when you're making decisions, it's never easy. And I know Dave struggled with the decision on how much you trade and to get. But when you look at the foundation of our club, and Ben talked about it earlier, the foundation of our club is a young 20-something nucleus that are going to be together for a while. And so when you know you're going to have a nucleus that's fairly stable for a while, there's a rhythm to building a team and having a competitive team. And we're at that point in that process where we're ready to win.
Yeah.
And if you can add one more piece, like a Chris Sale, it very well could be the piece that puts you over the top. And so while you have a team that's somewhat stable, we've done a great job here, well before Dave or myself got here, done a great job of assembling talent from a player development standpoint, from a scouting, from international scouting. So during this stability of the next 3 to 4 years, they have time to go retool. They have time to go add more players to the system, but at the same time, we were able to use talent we have now to get now pieces to win at the big league level.
Yeah, it's similar to the Atlanta Braves back in the day. They were young in pitching, and they
Right.
would bring in a Terry Pendleton,
Correct.
Otis Nixon, those veterans that really, like you said, the glue to that team.
That's right.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, we appreciate you being here up here, and we're looking forward to opening day. It's not too far away.
It's going to be exciting. Won't be long. We'll be in spring training.
Yeah,
So.
you got any more events to do, or
No, I'm done.
this
I'm
is
done.
it, huh? In and out. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.